You want it to be one way.
What?
You want it to be one way.
Man, I don't
You
know
want it
what
to
you...
be one
Man,
way.
stop! Stop saying that.
What is the other way?
All right. Everybody have a seat. It's your boy Rain. This is ATP Combat Media Show. Salute to all the subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, I do invite you to please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Remember to hit the bell icon so you are alerted whenever I drop this content. Hope everybody's doing well. It is the day after Christmas. I hope everybody got all their gifts and all their dreams came true and they spent quality time with their families. Hope everybody hugging on them kids, letting them know that they loved and that they're protected, and get ready to go into the new year with a whole new year of expectations and hopes and what's the word I'm looking for? What do we do on New Year's? Resolutions that we are all going to stay true to and see through to the end of the year and see them through to fruition, right? Well, Anthony Joshua, come up to the front of the congregation. Yesterday I put out a video in reference to Deontay Wilder and what I thought about his journey in the boxing game, and I gave my opinions, and at the end of the day, more importantly, understanding that, much respect to Deontay Wilder, he was able to remove himself from a very challenging situation that he was in, and he was able to turn all that pain and all that struggle and all that adversity into something productive, where he was able to focus that energy into the boxing gym and ultimately change his whole family's trajectory. Generational wealth that he was able to accumulate and pass down to his kids will always be felt, and I always respect him as a man being able to provide that for his family. But today's topic is going to be Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua, we've been on this rocky road with Anthony Joshua, right? Watching him come up as from a prospect to actually the superstar of the heavyweight division, becoming a unified champion, being shy one belt on becoming an undisputed champion. And at one point in time, the person who had that other belt was Deontay Wilder. From reasons unknown to myself, I'm sure we all could we all could wonder and guesstimate as to how many reasons and why they never actually met. Some people will place most of the blame on Anthony Joshua, of course, and others will place a lot of the blame on Deontay Wilder. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to place blame. But ultimately, on Anthony Joshua's debut in the States, in New York, where he was scheduled to actually fight Jarrell Miller. A lot of you guys will be familiar with Jarrell Miller. He's the one who had a recent bout with Daniel Dubois, which I also plan on putting a video out on, because that was a very inspirational journey as well for Daniel Dubois. But staying on topic, I digress. Anthony Joshua came over to fight Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller popped on multiple different PD tests for different substances that were going to enhance his performance, and therefore got disqualified out of the match. And a last-minute replacement was put in by the name of Andy Ruiz. You guys might be familiar with him as well. Andy Ruiz was a very actually highly decorated amateur fighter, and although he didn't look the part, was actually one of the highest skilled boxers that Anthony Joshua was going to face up until that point. So Anthony Joshua, took the fight, of course, because one thing about Anthony Joshua is he doesn't seem to shy from challenges too much, especially when it comes into the conversation of defending his titles or defending his honor as a heavyweight juggernaut. Took the fight on short notice, and although he sat Andy Ruiz on his pockets early in the fight, ultimately what ended up happening was Andy Ruiz was able to overwhelm Anthony Joshua with his boxing IQ, things that looks that Anthony Joshua never got to see before, and ultimately gave Anthony Joshua his first defeat, TKOing Anthony Joshua in one of the mid rounds. So it seemed at that point that Anthony Joshua actually kind of regressed a little bit in his boxing aspirations. He always communicated that he was very interested in placing his name in the history books with the greats, but it did seem like he lost that flair. And what Anthony decided to do, unlike a lot of other boxers decided to do, was he actually went back to the drawing board. He went to his gym and said, listen, man, we need to get back to the fundamentals. He wanted to become a superior boxer. He didn't want to be this guy who was just running around swinging, swinging for the bleachers, trying to knock people out only. He wanted to be recognized for his actual boxing IQ, for the way he carried himself in the ring. He really always admired the Muhammad Ali's and all the great boxers, heavyweight boxers specifically of the past generations. So he started his journey, right? When he began his journey, he was actually there with Rob McCracken. You guys may be familiar with him, may not be familiar with him. He's a UK guy coaching Anthony Joshua, and on the rematch against Andy Ruiz, he was actually able to outbox Andy Ruiz and beat him. Now, granted, Andy Ruiz it seemed like he didn't take that training camp seriously. He was really overweight. I remember everybody was saying that Andy Ruiz became like the face of the overweight people, showing like overweight people that they could accomplish things as well, and not to get body shamed and things of that nature. And I think Andy just drank from that Kool-Aid a little bit and came in the ring really out of shape. And regardless of the fact, Anthony Joshua was able to beat that version of Andy Ruiz and retain his unified belts. Not all 4 belts to be undisputed, but the 3 belts. Everything except for the WBC, if you have any questions about that. So moving forward, he now moves on, has like a little bit of he defends his titles, and he ends up having a fight with Alexander Usyk. You guys may know him now. He is the unified champion right now. Actually scheduled to fight Tyson Fury in next few months, I believe. Don't quote me. I don't have the dates yet, so I won't share it. Wouldn't be shocked if it was sometime in February or March. but regardless, don't quote me on it. I'll find the information and give it to you guys at some point. But right now, let's just say it's around that time period. And when he fought Alexander Usyk, once again faced with a high-level, high IQ boxer who was coming up from the cruiserweight division with an undefeated record. He was undisputed at cruiserweight. He came very decorated. And, Anthony Joshua was excited to step up to the challenge. He decided he wasn't going to use his size and overwhelm Usyk. He wanted to show the world that he's been doing a lot of boxing work. Well, that fight, if you guys aren't aware, I think most of the supporters of the channel who are boxing fans are aware of the results of that fight, where Alexander Usyk was able to take a majority decision win over Anthony Joshua in that fight. That seemed to once again chip away and take a shot at Anthony Joshua's pride, in his confidence in himself, on what he could do in the ring. But once again, he swore up and down and promised everybody that he was going to go back to the drawing board, improve even more in his boxing, and that he indeed was in belief that he could beat Usyk. So the second time around, unfortunately for Anthony Joshua, it went pretty much the same way. Usyk was just sometimes styles always make fights. Secondly, a lot of times, fighters just have your card. You just meet that fighter who has your card. But one thing Anthony Joshua didn't fall short on or fall short in was he never lost his passion to want to prove to himself and prove, I'm sure, amongst his peers that he was who he said he was. He really believed that he could get this boxing thing down tight and be a competitor. Something to always respect about him. So he went, and the next step he did was he went and switched trainers. Very interestingly enough, he left Rob McCracken and ended up going to not Derek James. Let me pull that back. He actually ended up going to Robert Garcia. right? Actually, he left Rob McCracken. Let me go back and fix this. Let me fix this, guys. You know, don't attack me in the comment section. He left Rob McCracken after the first fight with Usyk and actually went to Robert Garcia for, oh no, hold on. No, I'm right. Yeah, I'm right. Yeah. He went to Robert Garcia for the second fight against Usyk and lost that fight. After that, he separated from Robert Garcia and decided to go with Derek James, who at the time was, you know, a trainer for Errol. He still is a trainer for Errol Spence, but at that time, Errol Spence was a unified champion in the welterweight division. Derek also had a undisputed champion in Jermell Charlo in his camp. He was also dealing with a young prospect contender and Frank Martin that was also starting to make smoke in the lightweight division, and it looked like the person he should go to. Now, what was complicated about that situation was that Anthony Joshua was actually flying from England, actually came to live in Texas to be closer to Derek James and, you know, to be trained. Committed to Derek James, finally got into a gym to where he wasn't the superstar of the gym. And it seemed like he appreciated that because it seemed like there was some pressure on him being, you know, always a superstar where he was at. In this gym, he really was just one of the guys and was running and training with the gentlemen and end up coordinating a fight. I don't remember the gentleman's name, Jermaine. If I say Jermaine Jackson, you guys are going to jump all over me, right? So act like I didn't say Jermaine Jackson. Right, because I don't remember his name. But at the end of the day, you know, it wasn't the best showing of Anthony Joshua. You can tell that Derek James slowed him down and was really bringing him back to the fundamentals and just wanted Anthony Joshua to be defensively responsible, you know, stick to the basics, you know, a good jab, controlling the distance, and I think they were more interested in Anthony Joshua actually getting the rounds in, to actually get rounds in so he could feel what the new strategy and the new techniques and everything, how they felt in the ring when he fought somebody. And they wanted him to get through it, and they didn't mind getting what they ended up getting, which was a unanimous decision. They dominated the match, but it wasn't the most exciting match, right? Then it seemed that during that time period, as Anthony Joshua was actually getting ready to go into another fight, which this time was going to be against Robert Helenius, a fighter who Deontay Wilder had knocked out actually before. Well, let's rewind that back. Once again, it's one of those things where I'm coming off top of my head, but I want to give it correctly. He was actually scheduled to fight Dillian White, right? This was going to be a rematch. Him and Dillian had already fought once, and Anthony Joshua actually knocked Dillian out. Well, this was going to be an opportunity for him to fight a real game fighter that, you know, he had a very high chance to get knocked out, and also he could knock out just based off history and their history of how they fought before. He already knew he could knock him out as well. Derek James was very interested in getting Anthony Joshua through this one and showing this was going to be the coming out of Anthony Joshua from the sleep and the hibernation hiatus of the old Anthony Joshua that we knew him to be. There was sort of a hiatus of that Anthony Joshua, and this was going to be the coming out of that Anthony Joshua. Well, if you guys aren't aware, Dillian White did pop also. He popped on performance enhancement drugs and was pulled out of that fight. And there was a last-minute replacement by the name of Robert Helenius. This guy was a gentleman who had fought Deontay Wilder months before. He did get knocked out by Deontay Wilder inside the first 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes of the first round. And, you know, he was in shape. He had just fought, I think, a few weeks before that. So he was actually in great shape, and, you know, perfect timing for him, and took the last minute replacement, and Anthony Joshua was okay with that. Well, you know, as I stated earlier, this was going to be Anthony Joshua's coming out. I'm back. This is who I am. I'm knocking people out like I'm supposed to be, like I am supposed to be. So everybody should know that I'm back. Well, he fought Robert Helenius. It wasn't a competitive fight. Robert Helenius was really not, you know, competitive. But once again, Anthony Joshua kind of looking hesitant at times. It took him a while to finally get comfortable and confident enough to pull that trigger. But ultimately, when it was all said and done and all the smoke was cleared, he did knock out Robert Helenius in that fight. Once again, on his journey of redemption, of trying to hopefully get back at some belts, get at a championship, to get a fight with Tyson Fury at the time, or even rematch Alexander Usyk, getting himself ready for that situation. And he was with Derrick James for that. Well, during that time period after that fight, Derrick James actually was getting Errol Spence ready for a unification fight with Terrence Crawford, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with as well. At that time that's happening, Errol Spence did end up losing that fight. We all know how that fight turned out. And it did seem at that point that Derrick James was kind of getting a little heat because he had such a high-end, high-level, very expensive stable that he was dealing with. Because at that time, he's now dealing with Anthony Joshua. He's dealing with Ryan Garcia at the time. Ryan Garcia came over after a loss to Gervonta Tank Davis. He was dealing with Errol. He's dealing with Jamel Charlo. I don't know where Jamal was at in the conversation. To be honest with you, I'm pretty sure Jamal always had another trainer. It wasn't a big deal. But, of course, dealing with Frank Martin as well. And Frank Martin, believe it or not, also had a lackluster performance earlier that year in his last fight. So there was some shots being thrown at Derrick James, and even myself, I'm not innocent or above saying that. I was also had some criticisms of Derrick James at the time, was wondering if he was overwhelmed with his roster and how he was able to give everybody the time they needed. There was a lot of high profile fights that was on his schedule that he had to do, and there was concerns as to whether or not that was overwhelming him and whether or not he was able to efficiently give every fighter he had on his roster the time that they needed. I digress to get back to the point that Anthony Joshua, who after he finished beating Robert Helenius, had went back to England because that's where he lives, right? He has a child there. He has family there. This is where he's from. He went back there and he wanted to be home a bit and train at home. Well, clearly with a roster like Derrick James has, he's not able to go and live in England for any, ridiculous amount of time. He can't give Anthony Joshua the time he wants. So what Anthony Joshua does is he puts himself in the gym with Ben Davison. Now, Ben Davison was actually the coach and trainer who was in the ring with him in this recent fight that he had with Otto Weiland, right? So Ben Davison also is the old coach and trainer of Tyson Fury when Tyson Fury fought Deontay Wilder in that first fight. Everybody knows that that Tyson Fury ended up leaving Ben Davison after that first fight and ended up going with Emmanuel Stewart's nephew, Sugar Hill, right, from the Crunk Gym. And, became a power puncher and is now presently, knocking people out and doing all of that. But Ben Davison, bowed out gracefully, had no issues. He supported Tyson Fury's decision if that's what he wanted to do. He fell back. He owns his own gym in England, where now Anthony Joshua goes to his gym to start working out and getting ready. And that sent like a confusion throughout the algorithm of the boxing space, because trying to understand what was going through Anthony Joshua's mind while he was once again changing to another trainer. Everybody became interested in what this was. Was he leaving Derrick James? Was he not leaving Derrick James? You asked Derrick James what's going on. He's laughing, saying everybody's ridiculous. Why would Anthony Joshua leave me? But at the same time, Anthony Joshua is training supposedly at this point to get ready at some point to be fighting Deontay Wilder. He's training, and you guys have just begun your journey together where you're training him, and now you're about to be potentially on the third fight since he's been working with you, and already he's working with another trainer. It was just confusing. And once again, another space where I am not above telling you I was confused as well. I was really just wondering what that was all about. And then a lot of boxing pundits out there and Hall of Fame boxers and people who have been in the boxing game a lot longer than I've even been able to do something like what I'm doing right now. It's not even measurable. We're confused as well. A lot of them said that they didn't know if that was going to be a good thing, that, changing trainers, changing cultures in the gym, as a boxer, having to adjust to all these things could have negative, could have adverse effects to a boxer's career and his ability to apply all these different ways of boxing that he was being taught. So, but ultimately, he ends up with Ben Davison. They work it out. They come into this fight recently, and I have to admit, Anthony Joshua looked pretty exceptional to me. He had a very good jab. His punches that he was throwing were well placed. very accurate, a lot of bad intentions. He beat up Adewale pretty good, and to the point to where Adewale couldn't come back out of his corner after the 5th round, sat down with a broken nose, and just really had to fall back, and Adewale just, had his corner throw the towel in. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm not saying that correctly because I don't want to make it sound like this man gave up on the bench. Maybe he didn't. I don't know the story as to whether or not he gave up or his corner just saw him in a condition that wasn't worth him moving forward. So at the end of the day, the fight got stopped. He didn't come back out of the corner. This on the same card that Deontay Wilder also performed against Joseph Parker, and we all know didn't perform very well. And also that fight both their fights being very important because there was already a contract that's signed in between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua for them to fight in late or early March, to finally have a fight that everybody's been waiting on, because everybody's been waiting on Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder to meet up. But, obviously plans may have changed due to Wilder's lackluster performance and pretty much getting shut out 12 rounds to zip on his fight against Joseph Parker, right? So what's the point of this video? I'm breaking down all this for what? Where are we going with this? Well, where we're going with this is there's accolades that should be given at this point. When you see somebody like Anthony Joshua moving the way he does, and all the questions that that were raised, and all the concerns that were raised with the way he was moving, going from coach to coach to coach and wondering what he was doing. Well, with hindsight being 2020 now, we can see that Anthony Joshua was just trying to become the best boxer he could, right? He wanted to be he was searching for greatness, and he was looking for the best trainers that can get him there. And this situation is a situation where we have to give him accolades, because on the opposite side of the spectrum, a lot of fighters who have tried to move the way Anthony Joshua moved ended up with the worst results. Really just unfocused, really just not being able to stick to one game plan, and really just regressing in their boxing abilities. And Anthony Joshua was able to overcome all of that and become be back in a space to where his community, the space itself, is accepting of him and saying, listen, man, Anthony Joshua is back. He is no longer this he's no longer this insecure, very low confident fighter who mentally can't get out of his way in order to get back a lot of the stardom or the boxing credibility that he had prior to really the Andy Ruiz fight that happened however many years ago. So this man's been on a journey to be great, and what he's done and the risk he's taken and the commitment he's made for a man who's not short on money, who's not short on fame. He's a very successful businessman as well, has his own company, clothing line. This is a very successful man who really, to be honest with you, could have retired from boxing. Nobody would have said anything to him. He'd have still been Anthony Joshua. But when you have passion for a sport or for anything in your life, the way Anthony Joshua has shown he has passion, then there's many barriers that you'll break through, and you'll try almost anything, and you'll work hard, and you'll go through the hard times with the world talking down on Anthony Joshua, questioning his heart, saying that he's ducking Deontay Wilder, saying that he's no longer the person he used to be, that he doesn't have the fiery spirit in him anymore, that Andy Ruiz extinguished that, or Alexander Usyk extinguished the little fire he had left in him, and that not expecting him to do well, to come back victorious in a 5-round fight against a fighter who also, to get you guys up to speed, in Adewale, who had a great showing out against Tyson Fury about 2 years ago. And obviously, he didn't win against Tyson Fury, but he was able to, kind of like show that, being Tyson Fury was a giant at that time, able to make him bleed, showing him that gods can bleed, really. And Otto being the one who could deliver that blow, he wasn't a lay down fighter. He wasn't a knockout artist as well, but he was he had a decent IQ, and he's one of those fighters like I described with Joseph Parker, who wasn't great at anything, but was good at everything, was just an all around, well-rounded, good fighter, right? And Anthony Joshua was able to make short work of him, dispatch him and disparage, get him out of the way in a dominant way, where it wasn't like a flash knockdown. He literally made Adewale not come back out the corner. And I saw the fight, and I understood why Ottawa didn't come back out the corner, because it was just going to get worse for him, because Anthony Joshua was just having no problems controlling the distance and hitting him at will. I understood why he stopped, or his corner stopped it for him, whatever it was. So at the same time, when we can call fighters out and chastise them for their shortcomings and what they're not doing, and how they're not delivering on what we feel they should be delivering to us as fans, we at the same time have to learn to give flowers and accolades to these fighters when they go ahead and move above and beyond. When they move above and beyond what you thought they could do, and they make returns like Anthony Joshua seems to be on a journey to doing, we have to give them the accolades for that. And I'm definitely wanting to give Anthony Joshua the accolades for that, for being passionate about his craft. And although everybody was questioning and had concerns about the way he was moving, he himself was confident in what he was doing, and he knew the reason at what he was doing, and he was ready to take the good with the bad. In other words, he was able to take the rewards of the work he did, but if there were consequences there, he was more than willing to sit there and accept those consequences. On top of that, being a gentleman, right? Just being a gentleman after Deontay Wilder lost, not rubbing it or throwing rocks at Deontay Wilder, or being petty about it. Really just wishing Deontay Wilder the best, and saying that the fight between them could still happen. It all just depends on how the stars aligned and how the business was going to get worked out, because being that there was already a contract for them to fight regardless in March, he was willing to honor that contract. And just being a gentleman and showing a side of the sport to where warriors can be gentlemen, warriors can be honorable. You don't have to hate somebody. It doesn't have to be, you're talking about somebody's family, or, just using disparaging, disgusting comments and narratives to tear down anybody else around them to make themselves look bigger than they are. So there's honor in that. So, go ahead and put down in the comments, though. I'm really interested in what you guys think about that. Is Anthony Joshua in a space right now to where we are willing to accept him back into the space of as one of the dominant forces in the heavyweight division, who we are expecting to do more great things? I believe the conversation right now will probably be between him and Filip Urgovic, where it'll probably be over the IBF title, but don't quote me on it. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of options for Anthony Joshua right now, and with the Deontay Wilder loss, things are probably still in the air, and they're probably trying to figure out what the best direction is for them to go with him. But leave a comment. Guys, like I said, if you aren't subscribed, please feel free to please feel free to subscribe, like, and comment. Tell a friend. Go ahead and share. And you guys have a great evening. It's your boy Claymore Rain. This is the ATP Combat Media Show. And on that note, and at this point, we out.
They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out. Yeah.